So in this report, I'm going to kind of go over just how to edit reports in general. I will break down specific reports and their uses and how to edit those in a way that will be useful to each production manager here. But this is just a general overview on the editing process for the reports. So again, we're going to start on our dashboard. We're going to Reports Plus, and then we're clicking Report Library. Again, keep in mind the portal that you're going in through, it does matter. And if you've only saved a report under the JTech Construction portal, then you need to be in that same portal to access it. I'm going to pick the All Jobs Recap, but the individual report you choose really doesn't matter for this video. I'm just going to, basically this is my starting point for the description on how to edit these reports. The process is the same for any report that you're looking at and that you're changing. So again, this is not specific to this report. This is how you would edit any report within Acculynx. So once you've actually opened up said report that you're looking to edit, you're going to hit this blue Actions button. The main thing we're going to be using is the Edit Report button here, and I'll do a brief kind of overview really quick. Refresh Data is going to keep the report open, but if you've changed something, it's going to just update all the information without having to reload the page. Schedule report, that is going to allow you to basically have an automatic email sent to one person or multiple people within the company that just has whatever that report is showing at that given moment that it's sent. Mark as favorite, this again is just going to go back to that main your main report library screen. If you hit favorite, this button will just be illuminated. And again, the favorite item is placed in the main navigation for easy. Next time you want to review it, you can see that gold star light up as like a icon identifier. And then the favorites will all naturally come to the top of the list. So just keep that in mind that you can use that as well. Keep going down that actions list further. Copy is my report. I've mentioned this one a lot. Super important button, super useful, especially when you're dealing with a company report, which is what this all caps or All Jobs Recap report is. And you can tell that here by looking at the main page. It says company report. Again, if you go in there, make changes to it, and then hit save, you'll be saving that to the company report, and therefore that can cause a lot of confusion. So if you're going to be editing anything basically other than a report that's my report, you need to make sure that you're making a copy. So again, this actions button, you can do that here. Copy is my report, and that's going to basically allow you to retitle and give a new description that will describe what information you're including in this new report you're making. And then only you will be able to see that report unless you choose to share it with somebody else. Also in the actions menu here, we have download and export. This is only going to let you export as an Excel or a PDF. JTech doesn't really use Excel, but if you have a Microsoft computer, then you could export this as a Excel document and be able to edit the spreadsheet through Excel as well. Print, that's pretty obvious. Edit report title, that's just going to allow you to change, again, that report title, which shows here. So keep that in mind. You can add and edit a description. You could choose to view as a different user or switch to another location or just copy it to another location. But for the company reports, not super useful to copy to another location as most of those already have both Lincoln, Omaha, and Tri-Cities showing on them. And then also you have the delete button down here. Make sure that you're not hitting that delete button on company reports. I don't believe it'll let you delete an Acculynx report, so that's not even an option. But you're more than welcome to delete your own My Report reports as needed. That's all based on what you want to do. So this gray sort of box up here at the top, And for most of you, you're not going to have a select location box here. This is only going to be for company administrators. So keep in mind that if you don't have that, you would have to request a company administrator to make you an initial report with multiple locations selected in order for you to access those. Reference date. So this is saying that we're organizing this data based on all date ranges, and those dates are kind of corresponding with the approved dates of these jobs. And you can change that. So if you have a different priority that you're wanting to filter by, then you can change these, and the date range will correspond with whichever you have selected. Now to kind of dive a little more into the in-depth editing of these reports, you're going to hit the blue Actions button and then Edit Report, which will bring up your Edit Report menu over here. And I'm just going to go sort of line by line and explain what each of these options mean. So chart options, if you hit Add, for example, let's just choose a pie chart. If you hit apply to this just straight off the bat, it's going to take the information that we have in this report and it's going to break it down. As you can see, this one is not really the best tool. I don't really find the charts to be super helpful unless you're looking at like macro information or just like overall information. But when we're breaking down information based on jobs, as you can see, this gets to be a little bit difficult to see in a way that's helpful. If you decide you don't want to have that chart, then you can go back to Edit and hit None. And it's pretty obvious here, but when you click on the various chart options, you will have sort of preview of what's going to show up down here, if that's helpful at all to you. I'm just kind of running through those different options. You can change how the metrics show up. You can just do top 5, top 10. Again, not super helpful when you're dealing with all job information, but just wanted to make sure I showed you that. I'm sorry, let me get rid of this again. Again, don't forget to hit apply once you've chosen the option you're going with. So now my chart is gone because I chose none. The next section that we'll talk about is columns here, and it's kind of hard to see what information that's referring to by this main screen. But if you click on a job, for example, Jason and Nikki Oblerding, the columns that this is referring to are going to be these bits of information that go along the top. So essentially the columns are going to be all the information that you're accessing for any given report. To edit those, you simply hit Edit next to Columns. This menu is twofold. So this side of the menu shows you what you currently have as available information for this report. You can reorganize these by clicking and dragging if you want something to show up towards the beginning rather than the end, or just rearrange the order. And then keep in mind you can also click the X, which will remove that piece of information from the report altogether. That brings me to this side of this menu, which are essentially all the available options for information you can possibly include on this report. There's quite a bit, and you just have to kind of think through where that information is coming from. I'll give you an example. Order trade is going to be specific about orders that have been created, whereas if you go to trade type within job information, this would be more along the lines of what that customer said they originally wanted, but not necessarily what orders they have open. So I would always recommend using order trade versus trade type. Trade type has a lot of errors within it just because, after customers get estimates, sometimes, they'll take things off or add things, and so that trade type is not always going to be accurate. Let's see. So order information, that's again about the specific orders that have been created for any given job. Job information, company, location. So it'll show you basically for every job if it's Tri-Cities or if it's Lincoln, Omaha. But not super useful since we all know that the order name or the job number has a 2 if it's Tri-Cities and a 1 if it's Lincoln, Omaha. So again, some of these bits of information, if you added everything, it would just be way too much, and there's going to be a lot of repetition or redundancies if you chose to do that. So just be careful and thoughtful about which options you choose and understanding like where that information is coming from within Acculynx. You have progress statuses, super helpful for just checking on which of your orders, if you want to go by a specific order created date. Yeah, there's just lots of good little tidbits in there. Address for the job, if you want to see all jobs within the same zip code or on the same street or in the same city, possibly if you're trying to schedule a few things at once and you want to group those by geographical location, this would be a great tool and section to edit that by. Materials, that's again going to be based all on the materials section of each trade order, and then labor is going to be again based on those orders for each trade. Also, milestones simply is it approved, completed, invoiced, and then you can choose to organize them oldest to newest based on the dates for these various milestones. Under financial, within this given report, all you can look at is the contract worksheet total. I will say that based on what initial report you choose, sometimes there are varying options as far as what you can include on that report. So if you're trying to make a report for yourself and you kind of have in mind what you're wanting to see, if you aren't able to find those options in this particular report, you can always hit cancel, go and choose one of the other report options. So back to report library. And these different icons basically are going to have different bits of information from each other available to narrow down by. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you ask, or you can go to help in Acculynx if you're wanting to know kind of more specifically how, which reports can do what things. So you can edit all of that within columns, but keep in mind you can also shift sort of the information around as far as priority on the list from just by clicking and dragging these different column options. But you can also click the 3 dots and you can remove the column there. So you can go to edit next to columns, or you can just access the 3 dots on the actual column. That brings me to that you can filter a specific column if you want to get that detailed. So if you click the 3 dots on that column, hit add filter, it's going to bring up your filter box, which I'm going to go over here in just a minute. So next you have your filters section. This is going to be how you narrow down the vast amount of information that's in Acculynx. So for example, if you are, the gutter coordinator, you don't really need to see all the other order information. So this would be a great way to only view just gutter orders. It's going to have some filters that already exist just, to get the initial report showing the correct information. You can delete those and then re-add them if necessary just by clicking the X. But I wouldn't really mess around with that too much if you're not super familiar. To add another filter though, we're just going to go to add next to filters. And this menu box can seem a little bit intimidating, but it's really not when you think about it. So we're going to create a filter and we have to choose a piece of information, a type of information that we want to filter by. So in our example, we want to only see gutter orders. We would filter it by order trade. And then we would choose includes. I feel like these are pretty self-explanatory, but keep in mind if you choose equal to, you can only pick one item to filter by. But if you choose includes, then you can choose multiple items. Those are going to be the 2 most useful and the others are, again, self-explanatory. So we're going to choose includes, and we're going to go ahead and choose gutters, and then maybe Jerry also wants to know about gutter repairs, so we'll choose both of those and hit apply. That is going to change this list to only show you jobs that currently have open, approved gutter orders. So again, this should be a complete list of every single gutter job that we still have to do at any given moment for both, again, Lincoln, Tri-Cities, and Omaha. So just keep that in mind. And you can add as many filters as you want. There's no limit to that. So let's say we also just want to see, you know, orders that do not have a hold flag, because we're not going to try and install an order with a hold flag on it. So we'll choose does not include, and then we'll choose hold and apply. So this is basically going to be a list of every job that we could go ahead and start, you know, trying to install as soon as possible because they're not on hold. So yeah, so that's the filters. And like I said, if you have added too many filters or, you know, the like, you can just hit the X and that filter will go away. Also, if you decide, oh, I actually want to see gutter repair and gutters as well as siding information, you can edit that by clicking on the filter, and it will open what you've already selected, which you can deselect things or add to that if you want to just include more information. So that's an easy way. If you're just going and hitting add every time, you know, getting too many filters in there and not paying attention to how they might affect one another can cause some confusion on the reports. So just be careful of that. Last but not least, you have group. And so group's a little complicated to explain, but essentially when you look at this report, it's grouped by job name. So basically if we take off the gutters only, and you see here next to total trades, if we pick one that has multiple, so Diane and Nicholas Boyd have 6 total trades on their job that are currently not complete. And if you click on that, it's going to open up all the different orders. So if, for example, if we didn't want it to all be grouped just by the job name, we can X out of our job name, and that is going to show you all the information, and then you'll just have multiples of the same job name. So again, to add a group, you're just going to hit add, and we want to group, if we want to add that same thing back, job name, apply. Now that's going to show us just our job names and allow us to kind of not have a you know, it just helps you kind of visually see the information a little bit easier and lets you focus on one thing at a time. And to get rid of that, just hit the X button next to it and you'll go back to this easy peasy list. One last thing having to do with the groups, you can also do what's called adding a calculation, and adding a calculation is just going to let you, for example, if you want to know totals of for every job, like a count of the total number of orders or the total number of jobs open or something like that, that's where this calculation is going to be useful. So if we click add calculation, I would say the count is usually the most useful, but these are, again, self-explanatory, so I'm not going to really dive into that. But let's say we want a count of all of our order trades for each job. You can add further filters. So we want to include, or yeah, I mean, like we can, does not include AC combs, whatever. And then we want to call it like total count without AC combs. And when we hit apply, that's going to create another column here. So that means that Melanie Peterson has 6 open orders, which you can see right here, and none of those are AC comb because we excluded those in our filter. Then if you scroll to the very bottom, it will show you a total of 149 down there. So That can be kind of useful. You can also do sum. So, for example, we'll click back on there and let's say we want to do a sum of all of our order trades and we hit apply. When we scroll down, it should show at the bottom the total count of all of these orders. Again, the groups can be kind of, make the report a little bit muddy, so you can always exit those if you don't need it. Less information sometimes is better. So again, that's just sort of how to edit any report in general. There are lots of options, and again, as long as you're not hitting these save buttons after you're changing things, then you really can't mess anything up. So explore away, click some buttons, try and add things just to see, what works best for you.